I've been unsettled as I've looked ahead to this new year. My tension's been building slowly, and I've struggled to describe it. I finally found the words I needed in a text by the social philosophers Simon and Garfunkel. I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Much like them, I've been looking for America. It's been hard for me to find my footing as I've seen ICE arresting people on the street for deportation. As federally managed websites have been scrubbed of all references to LGBTQ folk, among many other groups. As climate change denial and vaccine skepticism have become official policies. And yet this sense is deeper than political frustration. I feel like I've been standing on shifting sands, losing my balance. And it's led me to a question. It's a single word. It's the first question that God asks Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Ayeka. Where are you? I haven't heard this as a question about where we are physically, but rather where we find ourselves spiritually. Where are we in the middle of all this turmoil? As I searched for an answer, I was led to another Hebrew word, shiviti. This is a Jewish mindfulness practice, literally setting God before us. It's a technique to find internal balance. I learned it at IJS. Even when we see terrible events unfolding around us, we can choose our response. We don't have to default to despair. God is near, inspiring us to bring good into the world. And this understanding has special meaning as we enter the days of awe. Where are you isn't an accusation. It's an invitation. It's a reminder that moments of uncertainty can become opportunities for deeper understanding. And that's how I found myself led to the most helpful question of all. When the outside world stops making sense, what Jewish values within me help to keep me grounded and motivated to work for justice? I found an answer in one of the most repeated commandments in Judaism. We're told to care for the ger, the stranger among us, at least 36 times in Torah. And this is often expanded to include the orphan and the widow as well. Caring for people on the social margins isn't peripheral to Judaism. This is central to our covenant. And right now, this cornerstone Jewish value is under active attack. For months, we've been hearing voices on the far right calling empathy a weakness of Western civilization. As I've been reading about these unprecedented assaults on compassion, I was moved by an op-ed in the New York Times by a Harvard psychiatrist, Helen Reese. When we're sick or dying, what we crave isn't judgment or ideology. It's a connection, comfort, care. Empathy is not our enemy, it's our lifeline. When we deny it, we deny our shared humanity. Empathy is anything but a weakness. Empathy is our superpower. Choosing compassion over fear expands our capacity for joy, for connection, and for hope. As the rabbis teach in Pirkei Avot, im ein Torah, ein derech eretz. Im ein derech eretz, ein Torah. If there's no Torah, there's no decency. And if there's no decency, there's no Torah. Torah and compassion depend on one another. And since Judaism is a religion of hope, our hope rests on a foundation of empathy. That is the solid ground that we stand on as we welcome Rosh Hashanah, our universal birthday. The rabbis teach that Rosh Hashanah doesn't mark the first day of creation. This is the last day of creation when humankind was created. So while Rosh Hashanah is a Jewish holiday, it still carries the key message that we are all made in the divine image. This may be why our tradition teaches so consistently about our duty to care for every person, especially for Gerim, for those who are seeking refuge among us. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs teaches, strangers have rights and make a legitimate claim in our humanity, for we are all strangers to someone else. This is something Israel is expected not merely to know abstractly, but to feel in the deepest recesses of its collective memory. Our compassion is rooted in our stories. Telling them must inspire us to action. It's not sufficient for us to tell the story of how we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. It's what we do with that teaching now. This is a moral test that we are facing. And it brings us back to the question that started our journey. Where are we in this defining moment of the new year? We are called to be a culture of defiance in a time that denigrates empathy. It can be hard to respond with compassion. I struggle with this challenge myself frequently. It's much easier to keep my head down and focus on my own family, my own people, my own community. And yet, as Dr. Rees wrote, we're called to remember our shared humanity. We will not surrender to those who seek to divide and to separate us, because we remain rooted in Torah's call to care for the voiceless, because we know what it means to be outsiders. This teaching reverberates through our entire tradition. Leviticus tells us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Rabbi Hillel says we must not do to others that which is hateful to us. These are all expressions of that same mitzvah, to bring empathy into all our relationships. We stand on the certainty that each person is created b'tselem Elohim, in the divine image. And when we place God before us, shiviti, we begin to perceive that presence in every human being. This is how I moved past my aching search for America, not by counting cars on the turnpike, but by recognizing the sacred in every soul we encounter on our travels. This journey echoes another famous teaching in Pirkei Avot. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I? Tonight and tomorrow, we're going to focus on the second half of that statement, our obligation to others. And then at Yom Kippur, we'll turn inward, exploring care for ourselves and for Israel as the other half of that equation. Right now, as we welcome 5786, Let's reaffirm our community's value of engaging in study and tikkun olam, healing our world. As the rabbis teach, holy study leads to holy action. And this process requires honest self-reflection. When has fear or fatigue closed your heart to someone who needed to be seen? That's the personal study for each of us to pursue. Here's the action. Through this festival season, make a point of connecting with someone outside your usual social circle. Walk to an errand instead of driving there and see who you meet on the street. Volunteer to pack food with our members at the Greater Framingham Community Church. Engage with someone whose experiences challenge your assumptions. And in those moments, wherever you find them, see the person that you encounter as made B'Tselem Elohim, in the divine image. That is one way to set God before us and to transform these shifting sands into solid, sacred ground. Let's let this question carry us into 5786. Ayeka, where are you? And let us respond, Hineni, here I am. Let's celebrate everything that binds us together and draws us close. Shana Tova Umetuka. May this become a sweet new year as we find ourselves by never losing sight of each other. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Rochim Tihiyu.